Hi, I'm Linda Quinlan.
And I'm Kim Ward.
I'm Keith Ghostland, and welcome to All Things LGBTQ. We are taping on Monday, November 27th. As we acknowledge our show is taped at Orca Media in Montpelier, Vermont, that we recognize as being unceded Indigenous land. And giving you all the usual rhetoric, now you're going to tempt us with intellectual endeavor. Yeah.
And probably not a lot of good news, but, you know.
It's news.
It is the United States.
Enough said.
But this is a good news story. A progressive poll found most Vermonters don't believe state legislators have the right to ban abortion or gender-affirming care. The data for Progressive Think Tank surveyed more than 1,200 voters nationwide and found that most people believe decisions on those personal health decisions should be guided by medical professionals, not elected lawmakers.
Radical concept.
But the key finding was that 55% of voters believe state lawmakers should not be allowed to implement full bans on abortion or gender-affirming care, and place criminal penalties on physicians who provide this care. By comparison, just 34% believe those restrictions do fall under the purview of politicians. So that's good news. The country is more liberal than, you know, but never mind.
I was going to say, removed from healthcare decisions, I keep thinking our elected politicians should pass a high school civics exam.
They should read the Constitution, maybe.
Maybe. Or beyond the Constitution.
But we distract you.
We digress.
In an alarming development in the LGBT community in Kansas, the public library, St. Mary's, has removed all youth-oriented LGBT plus books from its shelves to secure a lease for another year. The decision, highlighted by the Kansas Reflector, was in response to pressure from the city commission influenced by the Society of St. Pius X, a religious group opposed to LGBT plus content. City Commission Gerald Clysmith has been particularly vocal in this debate, expressing his desire to terminate the library's lease due to the inclusion of transgender inclusive literature, which he derogatively refers to as garbage. So, we don't like him.
We don't like him.
We don't like him. A group headed by former Donald Trump advisor Steve Miller is representing an Arizona school board member in her fight against transgender supportive policies. America First Legal filed a lawsuit Monday against Mesa Public Schools on behalf of board member Rachel Walden, alleging that the district's policies violate the state's parental laws. We hear that all the time. It also names the district superintendent, Adi Forlis. It was filed in Maricopa County Supreme Court, so we'll have more on that as it develops. In the myth that transgender inclusive restroom policies enable sexual predators, but Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, another one of our favorite people who's risen to the top of I don't like you. Okay.
If I don't like you.
Has said his high school friends would have taken advantage of them to spy on girls. Johnson made this comment in 2016 after President Barack Obama's administration issued guidelines to school on equal treatment of trans students under Title IX of the Education Amendment of '72, a law that bans sex discrimination in federally funded educational programs. He's such a charmer, that guy. Charles Moran, The president, or you could say moron, Moran, the president of the Log Cabin Republicans, has offered a candid look into his group's relationship with the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. In addition to discussing Johnson, Moran spoke with the outlet about the challenges and opportunities faced by the LGBTQ plus community. Republicans in today's political arena. The conservative organization was founded in '77 and has more than 10,000 members. Throughout the interview, Moran spoke about his desire to work with the speaker. What is wrong with these people? Even though Moran admits he, like many in the U.S., was unfamiliar with Johnson before he became speaker. Now you know. Since he ascended to the role, Johnson's past has been discovered to be littered with anti-LGBTQ comments.
Can I say that a membership of 10,000 for a national organization doesn't seem like that many to me?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Too many.
Too many, but not.
Too many, but
It's not many.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
so how much of a following can you have?
Okay, and this is another, I don't know if anybody's watched it. Ann and I did. It was a lovely show, sort of a docudrama. Colin Domingo is having a big year from receiving buzz around his commanding performance in Netflix's new Bayard Rustin biopic that sees the actor portraying the seldom championed queer civil rights icon to a standout turn in a much buzzed musical film adaptation of The Color Purple. Domenico is out in front for everyone to see. The Emmy Award-winning and Tony-nominated actor is finally receiving his long overdue moment. But the outperformer has always made himself known. Presented by Lennox at this year's Out 100, Domenico was honored with the Out 100 Visibility Award for bringing groundbreaking LGBTQ plus visibility to film, television, the stage, and media, in addition to moving hearts and minds toward greater equality. Domenico has become a model for members of the LGBT plus community, inspiring others to make their own dreams a reality. It was a great, and it's on Netflix, and it was a great docudrama. It was really good. I happen to know a little about him from having seen a documentary about him a few years ago that was out.
Yeah.
I think they had it at the Senior Center, didn't they? Maybe. Anyway, but it's really enlightening about him.
Nice.
Actress Sarah Paulson spoke adoringly of her partner of 8 years, Holland Taylor, while appearing on Tuesday's episode of The View. I am thrilled and I feel very lucky to be with a person who is smarter, wiser, wittier than I. And that just makes my life better in every possible way and helps me want to be a better person, a fully realized person, Paulson said. She also makes me feel seen, which I think is the most important gift you can give any person. So, and for my last part of my first half, there is a movie out, and as you can imagine, Keith, it's a good psychological thriller.
Ooh.
She likes those horror films.
I love them.
Yeah, no.
Called Always Be Enticing for Moviegoers. And in 2023, new movie slate has an offering to satisfy that itch in Eileen, starring Anne Hathaway and Thomasin McKenzie, based on the best-selling novel by Ottessa Moshfegh. Eileen has already earned some strong reviews, having originally premiered in 2023 Sundance Film Festival. With Oscar-winning Hathaway, budding star McKenzie, and an acclaimed director, it certainly has plenty of intriguing talent involved. So here, let's look at that clip.
Eileen!
Oh, look what the cat dragged in.
Good afternoon, Eileen.
How's your day, Dad?
It was a day, just another day.
My day was a doozy. It's one of those days you never forget.
Listen up. This young lady is our new prison psychologist. She may be easy on the eyes, but I assure you, she is very smart.
I'm Rebecca.
I know.
I don't think I caught your name. Oopsie. Nasty habit. That's why I like it. I live a little differently than most people.
They're probably scared of you.
Prison is no place for a young lady. You got a big life ahead of you, I'm sure.
I'm just kind of average, I think.
You really think you're a normal person? I bet you have brilliant dreams. Eileen, may I confide in you? People are so ashamed of their desires. I have my own ideas.
Kind ideas.
You can never tell anyone, do you understand? Promise me.
Okay.
Love will make you crazy. Love will make you kill. Can't imagine you with a knife.
Can you imagine me with a gun?
That's very good, Eileen.
Yeah, I can see it. You're different these days. It's almost interesting.
Secrets and lies. Some things are so twisted. The only way out's for someone to die.
That was a great trick.
Nice.
Okay.
Got a clip.
Okay.
Ooh. Well,
That should be very fun.
yeah, we'll have to see
Yeah,
this
for some
together.
of you.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm waiting for Silent Knife, which you mentioned last time. It's coming out in the theaters in December. I will have some entertainment news tonight as well, but we won't start with that. So on the international front, I have some stories from Russia, Thailand, international cricket, a little bit of Hollywood news, and even a British museum story. It's very exciting. So we're going to start here that there was recently a lesbian artist who received multi-year prison sentence for criticizing Putin and the military. So that is not good. To the shouts of shame in the courtroom, a judge in Russia last week sentenced this lesbian artist who criticized the country's military actions in Ukraine in a supermarket protest last year to 7 years in a penal colony. Alexandra Skochelenko, who was only 33, was convicted last Wednesday of spreading knowingly false information about the use of armed forces and the government's use of its authority. On March 31st, 2022, Skolechenko, also known as Sasha, had switched out the price tags at a Perekrestock supermarket with stickers that looked like price tags but contained a series of anti-war messages. A witness alerted authorities, and Sasha was arrested April 11th under a Russian criminal code. This code, Article 2073, which in effect outlaws criticism of Russian government and military, is what she broke. So Skolechenko admitted to leaving the messages, but denied she committed a crime because she said she only told the truth. The court also heard that Skolechenko suffers from bipolar disorder, heart disease, PTSD, and celiac disease, and she has a cyst in her right ovary. So before the verdict was read, Skolechenko remained defiant. The state prosecutor said repeatedly that these 5 tiny pieces of paper were exceptionally dangerous to our state and society, she said in court on Wednesday. That weak faith our prosecutor has in our national society if he thinks that our state and our common security might collapse because of these tiny papers. What harm did I do? Who suffered because of my act? The prosecutor didn't say a word about that. After the verdict was read, supporters of Skolechenko shouted, "Shame," and "We're with you, Sasha," according to the Kiev Post.
You know, those people are so brave.
It's scary. It's a scary place to try to stand up and, yeah.
I mean, of course, in the early movement, we had a lot of those too.
Yeah.
But, you know,
but it's a lot. I mean, you're just telling the truth, and that's what you...
Yeah.
So on another Russian story, authorities ask a Supreme Court to declare the LGBTQ movement as extremist. Tallinn, Estonia, with the AP office there, said that the Russian Justice Ministry on Friday said it was filing a lawsuit with the nation's Supreme Court to outlaw LGBTQ plus international public movement as extremist. The latest crippling blow against the already beleaguered LGBTQ plus community in the increasingly conservative country. The ministry said in an online statement announcing the lawsuit that authorities have identified signs and manifestations of extremist nature in the activities of the LGBT movement in Russia, including incitement of social and religious discord. Russia's Supreme Court had scheduled a hearing to consider the lawsuit for November 30th, the ministry said. It is not clear what exactly the label would entail for LGBTQ plus people in Russia if the Supreme Court sides with the Justice Ministry, and the ministry did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. But the move in and of itself represents the latest and possibly by far the most drastic step in a decade-long crackdown on gay rights in Russia unleashed under President Putin, who has put traditional family values, quote unquote, at the cornerstone of his rule. That sounds familiar. Another law passed this year prohibited gender transitioning procedures and gender-affirming care for trans people. The legislation prohibited any medical interventions aimed at changing the sex of a person, as well as changing one's gender in official documents and public records. It also amended Russia's family code by listing gender change as a reason to annul a marriage and adding those who had changed gender to a list of people who can't become foster or adoptive parents. Do we really want to have here in our country in Russia parent number 1, number 2, number 3 instead of mom and dad, Putin said September 2022 at a ceremony to formalize Moscow's annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions? Do we really want perversions that lead to degradation and extinction to be imposed in our schools and our primary grades?
Oh boy.
Authorities have rejected accusations of discrimination against LGBTQ plus people. Earlier this week, Russian media quoted Andrei Loganov, of a deputy justice minister, of saying that the rights of LGBT people in Russia are protected legally. Loganov spoke in Geneva while presenting a report on human rights in Russia to the UN, Human Rights Council, and argued that restraining public demonstration of non-traditional sexual relationships or preference is not a form of censure for them. Putin, speaking at a cultural-related event in St. Petersburg on Friday, called LGBTQ plus people part of the society too, and said they are entitled to winning various arts and culture awards. He did not comment on the Justice Ministry's lawsuit.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Gotta love that Russia.
However, let's turn to a positive thing. Thailand's cabinet has approved marriage equality bill to grant same-sex couples equal rights.
Good.
So Thailand's cabinet said Tuesday, same-sex marriage with the expectation of the draft will be submitted to Parliament next month this amendment has been approved. Karam Palporn Klang, a deputy government spokesperson, said the amendment to the Civil and Commercial Code will change the words men and women and husband and wife to individuals and marriage partners for same-sex couples to be able to receive the same rights that heterosexual couples receive.
Good.
He said the law would guarantee the right to form a family in a relationship between same-sex couples, adding that the next step will be an amendment to the pension fund law to recognize same-sex couples as well. Prime Minister Shrestha Thavisin told reporters that the draft law is expected to be proposed to Parliament on December 12th. If it becomes law after Parliament's approval and King Maha Vajiralongkorn's endorsement, Thailand will be the 3rd place in Asia after Taiwan and Nepal to allow same-sex marriage. That's very exciting. That's a positive note.
That is good news.
And should we tell you about cricket banning trans athletes? And then I'll...
Yeah, why not?
Cricket's governing body has restricted transgender women from play.
Surprise.
This is an article from CNN. The International Cricket Council announced Tuesday that any male and female participants who have been through any form of male puberty will not be allowed to partake in international women's cricket. In the announcement, the ICC did not define its criteria for male puberty. CNN has reached out to the ICC seeking more detail. The ICC said that what it called the new gender eligibility regulations for international cricket came following a 9-month consultation process with the sports stakeholders. The review was led by the ICC Medical Advisory Committee. The new policy is based on the following principles in order of priority: protection of the integrity of the women's game, safety, fairness, and inclusion. And this means any male to female participants who have been through any form of male puberty will not be eligible to participate in the international women's game, regardless of any surgery or gender reassignment treatment they may have undertaken. And it's worth noting that beta blockers and things that people take now to keep them from transitioning through puberty were not available for older folks, and so that restricts a lot of older players who haven't been able to keep that from happening.
Well, it also
ridiculous.
restricts anyone who can't afford it.
Anyone who can't afford it,
or a country that
anyone
doesn't
who's
allow
intersexed,
Yeah.
or who has those genetic markers that make them not fit what sports people think.
Or have more
They should fit.
testosterone than
That's what I'm
that's true.
thinking, yeah.
I mean, there is a case of that now, right? With
Oh, sure.
It's been
I can't
ongoing.
remember.
And I have friends, who have children who were born with.
So I'm expecting you to know the answer to this week's trivia question
Okay.
because it's out in the mountains.
Oh,
Front page,
okay.
November 1990.
Oh, God.
Okay, the Wayback Machine.
And the Wayback Machine.
The Wayback Machine. Mr. Peabody. The Wayback.
Yes.
So there was a demonstration that occurred at the Barry Auditorium. And the demonstration was coordinated and led by members of Vermont's chapter of ACT UP, the Vermont Coalition of Lesbians and Gay Men, Vermont Rainbow Coalition, the Vermont AIDS Council, the Vermont Consumers Campaign for Health, the Vermont chapter of the American Heart Association, and the Vermont chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. Interesting group of people.
It is.
What might they have been protesting? And what might I have been the spokesperson for? Think about it. So, Rainbow Umbrella, Women's Discussion Group, Book Discussion Group. Go on the Facebook page.
Right,
You can
there
see
you'll
what's
find
happening.
it. Join us.
The more the merrier.
Yes.
So, the Vermont Humanities Council, Wednesday, December 6th, starting at 6 p.m. at the Kellogg Hubbard Library, and this is an in-person event. It's the community discussion of Last Night at the Telegraph Club.
Yes.
Now, Ann did an interview,
Yes.
so if you're interested, come engage in the conversation. Also on the same night, though, and this is a hybrid event, but it's in person at the Norwich Public Library, and I thought of you. This is Radicalized Musical Histories. Do you know that? History usually implies an accurate account of past events, while a story is less accurate, embellished by a storyteller. With remarkable consistency in the U.S., our histories have been written by white persons, usually men, with little divergence from the narratives of great works of Western canon. And Philip Ewell is going to expand on music's histories, stories, and explains why the common American music curriculum is still segregated on racial lines. So that should be
sounds good.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Friday, December 8th, and we haven't promoted this in a while, Bradford is, come to the Vittles House of Brews, 5 to 9 p.m., and it's just a social hour. They say no agenda, no itinerary, just come hang out.
Nice.
And on that same venue, because we haven't mentioned them for a while, it's Linda's favorite event. It's the pop-up happy hour at the Lincoln in Burlington,
Oh, the
where you go
Lincoln.
down, and it's 5:30 to 7 p.m. You walk down the alley next to Red Square, and you have to knock on the door to let me in.
You can't tell
Like
where the door
speakeasy.
is.
Like the old
Yeah.
speakeasy.
I love it.
And some of these events are sort of coming in the future. Saturday, December 9th, 8 until midnight, Babes is having a queer dance party. $5 cover charge. Remember when cover charge was $5?
Yes.
In our youth? On Wednesday, December 13th, the Pride Center, an in-person event. They're starting to open up the building again from 5:30 to 8 p.m. is their cookie swap.
Nice.
And they're going to do HIV, HCV testing, Mpox vaccines. Come spend some time. Friday, January 5th. Get it on your calendars. Love Thyself Winter Ball, Rainbow Bridge Community Center at the Barry Elks Club.
Oh, yeah.
It is going to be a gala event with Moxie Hart, Joe's Rose of Burning Roses Burlesque, Anita Cocktail, who we've interviewed before, Rita Rule, Lounge Lizard Larry. This should be a fun evening. And you can go onto the Rainbow Bridge website to get tickets in advance. And Rainbow Bridge says they want to ensure every member of our local queer community can celebrate. If you cannot afford to attend, reach out to them. And they will see what they can do for sliding scale, whatever. There will be food and drink available for purchase at the Elks Club.
Nice.
And with that, I'm turning it back to you.
Back to me.
But before I get into all of our
All the
local
heavy
depressing
local
news.
stuff. Yeah.
Back to you.
Well, California prides itself on diversity and inclusion, but to date, all the governors have been straight white men. That could change with the 2026 election, when Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, can't run due to term limits.
Right.
And the state could elect the first woman and first lesbian governor. I'm very interested in looking at all the possibilities of running for governor, says Tony Atkins, President pro tempore of the California Senate, running for governor. Tony Atkins, President pro tem of the California Senate, recently told the Associated Press, Atkins, a Democrat from San Diego, has also been an assembly speaker, the first lesbian to hold either of those leadership positions. So
Nice.
That would be nice.
Would be.
We'll be watching that one.
Yeah.
A black transgender woman was shot and killed on the streets of Dallas earlier this year, but her death went unreported in the larger LGBT community when she was misgendered in initial media reports. LaKondra Andrews, 26, was found by officers of the Dallas Police Department suffering from at least one gunshot wound just after 8:35 a.m. in April, according to news in Texas. Dallas Fire Rescue was called to the scene, but Andrews succumbed to her injuries and was declared dead. And in Pennsylvania, as we go around the country, Central Bucks School is embroiled in a controversy following its decision to approve a six-figure severance package for outgoing Superintendent Abram Lukabaugh, who recently resigned. Now, this seems to me well, anyway, you tell me what you think. Okay. The contentious move comes after a considerable political shift in the district, highlighted by the Democratic Party's recent takeover of the school board. The Republican-dominated board voted 6-3 in favor of a severance package for Lukabaugh amounting to over $700,000. This decision includes a year's salary and over $200,000 in unused sick time. The move has sparked widespread community backlash, with many residents expressing frustration and disbelief at a recent board meeting.
It's crazy.
So. And another Mike Johnson.
Okay.
We're on a roll.
The hits keep coming.
It's just keep coming.
In early October, the soon-to-be Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives took part in a prayer call in which he said Americans' culture was dark and depraved, partly because so many young people identify as something other than straight. It was hosted by Jim Garlow, co-founder of the World Prayer Network and founder and CEO of Well Versed, a Christian right-wing organization. The culture is so dark and depraved that it almost seems irredeemable at this point. We can only hope. Johnson said on the call, which was posted on Well Versed website the following day. Among the signs of this are the church attendance has dropped below 50%, and that 1 in 4 high school students identified as something other than straight, he said, putting air quotes around straight. We're losing the country, he said.
We can only hope.
I know.
Please.
On November 12th, Paul Glass and Charlie D. Evans of Falmouth were honored with this year's AARP Andrus Award for Community Service. It's AARP's most prestigious visible state volunteer award for community service. They are the first married and black couple in AARP's history to receive this award. Their signature work co-founding LGBTQ plus elders of color in 2023 in Massachusetts was unusual and courageous. No such organization existed at that time. In collaboration with the LGBTQ plus Aging Project, they identified the need and turned the need into a reality. They didn't just co-found the organization along with others. They continued leadership inspires, and they inspire many others to be involved. So good for them. Yeah. Did you have that story?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Ashlyn Harris is speaking out against the online hate she received following her split from her ex, Ali Kruger. The USWNT player, 38, posted a lengthy statement on Instagram Saturday in which she discussed the unbearably painful abuse she's faced over her divorce from Kruger, 39. Several weeks ago, a process that had been ongoing privately for some time became public, ending a relationship of almost 13 years of friendship, teamship, marriage, and co-parenting. After many good years, it's a decision that was not made lightly. We agreed to center on our children, continued therapy, separate, and to move forward with our lives. 2 happy families are always better than 1 unhappy one, she said. This process is never easy, but we are making our way through. So I guess she's
with people.
I know, she's got hate mail.
It's terrible.
I know.
People don't have anything better to do.
Well, it's because all of that has been validated, supported, and encouraged.
Yeah. So. Ted Cruz, another one of our...
Speaking of...
I can't take it anymore.
Another one of our favorites appears to be laying down the groundwork for post-political life should Texas continue its blue trajectory. And it involves littering America's bookshelf with his right-wing propaganda last week. The anti-LGBTQ senator will be released in November, just in time for the holidays. According to the book's promotional blurb, It promises 256 pages of a long overdue argument against the woke takeover of education, big business, the media, and Hollywood. From the best-selling author, a lawyer who could become Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General. So, as I missed that, wait a minute. That was another story, sorry. So anyway, that's Ted Cruz.
Talking about the world getting dark.
I know. Oh, can you imagine?
No.
All right. So let's see. I have a few more minutes here. Let me see if I can finish up. A lawyer who could become Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General has threatened to indict, arrest, and deport British-American MSNBC host Mehdi Hassan for speaking out against him. A recent segment from Hassan detailed the people Trump would likely select for the cabinet should he win in 2024 presidential election. Hassan wanted to show viewers that the second-term presidency for Trump would look like without any adults in the room. Oh, and another one of our favorite, Kristen Sinema.
Cinema.
I always get that wrong.
It's okay. It's why we're here for you.
Thank you. Was elected as a Democrat but left the party in the middle of her term.
Right.
And has been fundraising from the GOP donors as she prepares for a possible re-election bid against both a Republican and a Democrat opponent. And now Republicans are openly supporting her independent campaign. The National Republican Senatorial Committee paid for an ad attacking Representative Ruben Gallego, Democrat, the likely Democratic nominee in next year's Senate race. The ad says that Gallego divorced his ex-wife while she was pregnant with their child in 2017. Several years later, he married lobbyist Sidney Barron, and they now have a child together. Oh. And, you know, he's going to, what's her other partner there from West Virginia? Senator. West Virginia.
McConnell?
No, West Virginia. The other one who says he's a Democrat.
Oh, why am I blocking on his name?
I know. Anyway, he's going to run as a no-name. He's probably going to run in the no-name party. She's a Democrat who's really a Republican. I'm telling you, it's just getting out of hand. The owner of an Omaha, Nebraska apartment complex has painted the building rainbow at the request of his 3 daughters, ages 5, 7, and 9. While his daughters were motivated by a love for the colors, Ryan Bassier was intrigued by the idea due to a 2022 conversation he'd had with a fellow property owner on the block, during which the person made many anti-LGBTQ remarks. So here's a picture of the rainbow house.
Nice.
And just quickly, for my last story, Target is facing fresh criticism from conservatives over its Christmas ornaments. The retailer has a range of Christmas decorations available this year, including Santa of various ethnic differences in wheelchairs and toy soldiers carrying an LGBTQ flag and wearing a rainbow hat. It comes after the company suffered losses when shoppers boycotted Target for stocking Pride Month merchandise and transgender-friendly swimwear. Earlier this year, Target outdid itself, though, this year for Christmas. So if you want to get your woke swimwear and other stuff, head over to Target. On X, formerly Twitter, sharing photos of the ornaments on store shelves. One person responded to the post with, "Wow, just wow." Wow. You would think they would have learned from the last time. When will companies finally realize it? Go woke, go broke.
What they're saying is, don't tell us what to do.
Yeah.
I never
So that's my lovely news for today.
All right, I got a couple more stories.
Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin.
Joe Manchin, yes.
And the computer memory has told you, Joe Manchin. A couple more
So it's going to be a very interesting presidential race with these
really
people,
is.
but okay.
I agree. So a couple things. There is a far-right outsider, Javier Milei, has won Argentina's presidency. And
he's awful,
he has been likened to the U.S. President Donald Trump. He used to stump doing speeches with a chainsaw. He's kind of out of control. But he won. And so he's definitely been very closely, not only has he been likened to Trump, but Trump said, good for you, and
Carry on.
not only carry on, but now you can make Argentina great again. So his rival, Sergio Massa, conceded the runoff on Sunday and, said, hey, Milei is the president elected for the next 4 years. Unfortunately, this
He'll never leave.
person has, has all of the classic symptoms of, far-right conservatism. He's anti-LGBTQ, he's anti-abortion,
Wasn't he an actor or something?
Maybe, I didn't read that,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I'm not surprised. He is a social conservative with ties to the American right. He opposes abortion rights and has called climate change a lie of socialism. He has promised to slash government funding. I guess they're having like 140%, inflation down there, and so unfortunately we see that happens a lot. He's echoed the Trump slogan of drain the swamp. I will not try to say that in Spanish. May they all leave is what the Spanish saying is. And outside of controversial plans for dollarization, his political program includes slashing regulations on gun control, transferring authority over to penitentiary system from civilians to the military. Both measures that are part of a tough on crime approach. He's not a good dude, and I think we should definitely be keeping an eye on him.
I will cry for you, Argentina.
I am crying for Argentina right now, and many other countries.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is a little bit of Hollywood news. Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott are playing partners in this upcoming piece called All of Us Strangers. Mm-hmm. They're both amazing actors, and they've been nearly inseparable this fall. And they talk in a recent interview in Entertainment Weekly about their friendship and how much closer it's become because they've played intimate partners. And the two actors really only knew each other a little bit before filming, but now, we know everything. The whole kit and caboodle, Scott joked. And so it's been a really lovely story. And Scott and Mescal also said that their shared Irish heritage helped them to get closer on set and understand what their director was going for in this relationship, because he says, the Irish are still learning. They're a culture that's still processing how to give outward emotions. And so he says, Mescal says, I think that's why Irish actors, generally speaking, are good at playing stuff beneath the surface. A good healthy dose of repression helps with all acting, he said. So
sounds like the UK.
Yeah, in the UK, Irish are even stronger,
Yeah.
So the show All of Us Strangers is opening in theaters on December 22nd. So we've got Silent Night.
That's
we've
good.
got All of Us Strangers, all sorts of good things to watch.
Well, look at what the Savoy brings.
The Savoy is bringing the special show that you mentioned last.
Okay, but that will have occurred before this gets aired, which is why I didn't
Oh, never
include
mind.
it again.
Which we said last time, so there's
Yeah.
all sorts of things. But another story is a museum is reclassifying one Roman emperor as a trans woman.
Oh.
So one museum in the United Kingdom is acknowledging in North Hertfordshire Museum, say that British word, has announced that because of historical research and accounts, it is going to reclassify this Roman emperor Elagabalus, who will be identified with the pronoun she, her as a woman, because according to reports from Cassius Dio, a Roman chronicler who lived around the time of Elagabalus, it's a Latin
person.
word, Elagabalus. The emperor was termed wife, mistress, and queen, and told a lover, "Call me not lord, for I am a lady." Historical records also note that she was married to a male charioteer, a former slave named Heracles, and frequently wore wigs, makeup, and preferred to be called a domina or a lady rather than a dominus, a lord. Apparently, she also said that she would give vast sums of money to any physician who would give them a vagina, and inquired about methods for removing their male genitalia.
Wow.
There is some pushback on this story that historians are saying that at the time, there wasn't a concept of trans, and that oftentimes when somebody wanted to lampoon someone in writing, they would say that they were acting womanly. But it sounds like this has been really vetted and that the proof is out there.
I was going to say, this goes
Just because you don't have a name doesn't mean it does.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
what they're saying is writers would call a man womanly just as we do now when we shouldn't in our culture.
Okay, got it.
Oh, you're acting like a woman.
Yeah.
But the quotes sound and the vetting of the history sound really sound.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
Interesting.
exciting. Yeah. So I just want to make a brief note that November is National Indian Heritage Month.
Right.
And there's a great story in Them magazine, which I get, it's them.us, about Two-Spirit, what it means to be Two-Spirit. So I thought it was really lovely to get this little take on the fact that to be Two-Spirit is very different than just many of the terms we use within the queer community. Though words like trans and queer are identifiers that people find, yes, might also apply to them, Two-Spirit, which was a term coined in the 1990s by Cree organizer Myra Laramie, was supposed to be an umbrella term for gender variant indigenous folks across Turtle Island or America, North America. Laramie derived the phrase from a native term which directly translates to the words two spirits. And that initially Two-Spirit only referred to gender variant indigenous people across North America, but in the decades since, it was popularized, and the use of Two-Spirit also referred to as number two spirit or 2S. It's flourished well beyond that in Pacifica, in the Bay of Yala or South America, so it's proliferated, and it's very specific to the Native community, and it makes them feel seen. And I thought that was international news because it's from the Native community.
I was going to say, whenever I've engaged in a conversation about indigenous people and the use of Two-Spirit, there are identifiers within each individual culture identifying who they are. We choose not to recognize them.
Right.
And also, what prior to Two-Spirit, and one of the reasons of the real push, is the language that had been used to define that role within the community is what the colonists gave them, and they all had a pejorative meaning to them.
Correct.
So,
yeah,
but
and many of them had forgotten within the community that these terms even existed.
Yeah.
So they've been rebuilding like everything else in the Native
well, I was
community.
going to say, we tried to make you all into Catholics so you would forget all of
Right.
So I'm going to start sort of in the very difficult place. I want to acknowledge the recent incident in Burlington
Oh,
Yeah.
with the attempted murder of 3 Palestinian men who were walking down Prospect Street with traditional garb on, the scarf that's an
Keffiyehs.
identifier, and speaking in Arabic. And that as much as we like to believe that we are creating an inclusive and accepting environment, we've got to acknowledge the hate that's here and how it gets validated. And we've got to be willing to name it when it happens. We need to stand up in opposition to it. And as the chief of police in Burlington and the mayor have already said, they have asked for federal assistance to investigate this as a hate crime. Thank you. So
I guess we'll be getting more information about that, but apparently he didn't say anything. He just went up and shot them.
he was,
But they're all
In-
alive. They're injured but alive. Is that true?
right, well,
now?
the initial
is terrible,
reporting
but-
said that this person had been charged with second-degree murder. It should have been attempted second-degree murder. They were walking past the apartment building where the alleged assailant lived. they're now going through to gather what they can for information. And the fact that they were speaking in Arabic in the garb is information that has come out recently. So
It's hard to believe it was anything else, but
So
It wasn't
the
anything else.
the other news, and it's being reported in a public forum here first, the LGBTQIA Alliance of Vermont has made the decision to formally dissolve. And what that means is effective immediately, but it's going to take a while for the formal process to occur. There will be no representation or voice during the legislative session, and there will no longer be monthly meetings with members of the governor's staff to talk about issues relative to our community. So there will be more. On a more positive note, because every now and then we have to say
Gotta have
something nice.
positive, yes.
Pride Center of Vermont, they finally have an executive director.
yes.
And it may sound familiar because it's Phoebe Zorn, who has been in the role of their Director of Development and Communications. And I'm not going to go into the rest of what I had in the story because I understand that.
Anne might be interviewing them.
Oh, nice.
And perhaps there might be an interview with a mayoral candidate as well.
be.
We can see. All right. On another positive note, because I'm on a roll here, South Burlington, the same as Champlain Valley, they're drafting policy for transgender and non-binary students that acknowledges the student's right to how they identified. Their director of equity and inclusion was very clear about when they were writing their policy, which looks very heavily at what's been adopted at Champlain Valley, they went to their students first and their GSA alliance and said, we want to do something that's supportive of you, that doesn't put you at risk. We want to hear from you first.
That's huge.
What a concept, right?
What a concept.
But now it has to go through the same process as any other policy, which means formally drafted, reviewed by the appropriate committees, and then the school board has to adopt it. However, they think they're not anticipating any difficulty in that process. So this is very encouraging, and hopefully we're going to be able to report school district after school district after school district. Montpelier, we're watching you.
Yes.
So, quick acknowledgement. Representative Becca Ballant was the first Jewish member of the U.S. House to ask for a ceasefire. And her statement was, it doesn't matter who's killing whom, our children deserve a life. So she is asking that the Israelis implement a ceasefire. And as we had reported on the last show, originally, they were talking about military aid, whatever, and the people who were protesting at her fundraising event, who represented the pro-Palestinian communities, met with her and her staff saying, no, we need a ceasefire.
Yeah.
We should only be sending money for humanitarian aid. If you give military aid to anyone, it just means people are dying.
It continues the killing. Yeah.
It's like, please, kids.
Good for her.
These kids. Yeah.
Massachusetts, and I was sitting here waiting to see if you were going to, because, it's your old stomping grounds, and I'm running out of time. Governor Maura Healey has put in place a new state police task force called the Hate Crimes Awareness and Response Team.
I did see that, and I left it for you.
Oh. She's being generous this week. The unit will be dedicated to tracking hate crimes, responding to incidents, and working in broad partnerships to prevent it from spreading. Every single person in Massachusetts deserves to live a life free from fear, discrimination, and hatred. The diversity of our community is a source of strength. And very quickly, Littleton, New Hampshire. And thank you to Linda and Ava for passing it on. Right across the border from St. Johnsbury. It's known for being somewhat of a conservative district. Littleton's been having some issues. They had 3 public murals that were painted that one of their select board members, who is also a state senator, had objections to and wanted them removed because they had a positive LGBTQ plus theme to them that she felt was inappropriate in a public forum. But she wasn't, and apparently they are seeking legal counsel. How soon before we hear the name Alliance Defending Freedom mentioned again?
Or a million moms.
Well, Moms for Liberty, yeah. It's
100 million moms.
So they're seeking legal counsel of, can they impose some type of ordinance, whatever, and have them removed? But they're not done because the local theater company and the local playhouse has a lease with the town. They are up for renewal in May of 2024. They're eligible for a $1 million grant to help with their projects. This same select board member is blocking support because they may have put on a production of La Cage aux Folles.
Oh.
And again, they're seeking legal counsel. And quickly, the answer to the trivia question, and you're gonna go, I remember that. What was being demonstrated, and why I said
in 90?
1990. This is a smoke screen.
Because it wasn't an AIDS protest.
No, hold that thought. 1990, that's the year before 1991, which was Vermont's bicentennial, and they may have been organizing a tour for the Bill of Rights to circulate among all the states, and Vermont may have been the first location, and every school child in Vermont got a copy of the Bill of Rights with the Philip Morris logo.
Oh, I remember that.
I don't remember this at all.
That's what we were reporting.
That's why the American Lung Association.
That's what we were demonstrating, and with that, Linda.
All right, we have to keep up the good work, people, and remember to resist.